4 minutes past 8. Well, there you see some of the regions rallying themselves for the forthcoming national conference. And Mr. George Eke joins us now. He's a legal practitioner. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you so much.
Well, having seen some of the regions rallying themselves for the national conference, which is upon us, by the way, the president has named the chairman and vice of that conference, and so regions, groups, agencies, professional bodies, all getting set for this one. Are you looking forward to it?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it because, my initial impression about the national conference, so that I don't be seen to be talking from two sides of my mouth, is that it was not necessary. Okay. And I probably was in the same mode with the president at that point in time, until I do not know why he changed his mind. And because he has changed his mind, not that I'm following the president, because the circumstances have also given an impression that we require to talk. We require to talk essentially because we're in a democracy. And in democracy, there's nothing as good as talking. So we are going to talk. I'm also part and parcel of those people who supported the president or the secretary to government when they announced that there's going to be a no-go area. And that no-go area is that the indissolubility or indivisibility of this country should not be on the table. I agree whole and entire to that. The reason is this. It takes a reckless government, indeed an irresponsible one, to allow a group of people begin to talk about the dissolution of that same country that they are presiding over. And I don't think anybody, including those who are advocating that, would be in the position of the president and see a conference that is geared towards dissolving Nigeria. Good. Having agreed on that, I am also impressed about the composition.
No, but before the composition, does that presuppose that whatever they discuss at this conference, if we don't find a way of agreeing on some of those very pertinent matters, won't that core, where it's a no-go area, eventually become the subject?
No, it cannot be the subject, because you see, it is a challenge to them that they have to find a way of agreeing. No matter how much they disagree.
45%.
Yes, no matter how much they disagree, they must agree that we are in one country and that this country must move forward. And in any case, even the people who went on a field trip, that is to say, the Senator Femi Okoromo panel,
yes,
they said they only received one memo that talked about dissolving this country. And of course, if we look at examples of those who have attempted it, they are not better off. So let's not just go that way. Let's begin to wind around, things that can make us continue to remain together, so long as we address the issues of justice, equity, and fair play. Yeah. And I think those are things that are going to be, because you see, it's an open-ended conference, and I can bet you it may end up being a constitutional conference. Initially people were talking about let it be an ethnic conference. And of course I was on this platform and I said, look, I got a degree in anthropology some 30 years back. And as at that point in time, I think the number of ethnic groups in Nigeria, studies had it as about 250 or 260 or thereabout. But you see, that panel tried to see if they could toe that line of making it an ethnic conference. They ended up having 700 ethnic groups. And by the time they went to the field, they found out that there were more. Some hamlets said they were an ethnic group. So it became a situation where they couldn't handle it. So I'm quite comfortable with the way they went. Literally every facet of life, every walk of life is represented. Legal, media, name it, everybody, the traditional rulers, it's just very well composed. And that is why I am inclined to believe that what comes out of that conference may well tower over and above what appears to be a constitutional amendment that the National Assembly is doing. Because you see, the constitutional amendment the National Assembly is doing is tinted with a lot of politics. These other people are indeed the representatives of the people, if you ask me, because the way they are scattered, there's hardly any strand of opinion that is not going to be represented there. Meanwhile, the National Assembly, in what they are doing by way of amendment, is essentially political. Look at the one that almost went through, if not that it was shut down at the last, that they were trying to see if they can make it easier for them to impeach the president. a president that Nigerians queued up in the sun and in the rain to elect. So it now becomes a tool in the hands of the National Assembly, so that at any point in time they wake up from the wrong side of their bed, the president is gone, not again, minding what to give. But that did not go through. So that's the nature of amendments that the politicians in the National Assembly can do, which is not applicable to the conference.
Well, anyway, allow me to comment here, Mr. Eke, because I'm happy you brought the issue of anthropology, and also let's relate this with history, and would like to ask perhaps who are we likely to listen to, because if you look at that particular report from the archival materials there, we saw the late sage Obafemi Awolowo speaking again about one Nigeria, one constitution, and equity and justice. So it's the same thing, the same talk we've always had. And if we say, or if you say, that's what we hope to also find in this conference that is about to kick off, it's nothing new to us. So if we're bringing up what hasn't been new to us, and we haven't actually adhered to it, except that we have always had one Nigeria, how well can this outcome be taken into consideration by us as a country?
So let me help your argument. If you go back to history, for instance, and probably listen to the speeches made by Nzogu in the 60s, maybe the ones made by Murtala Muhammad when he took over and all of that, you will find, if they replay those speeches today, you will think they are talking about contemporary problems. Those problems of our hospitals being mere consulting clinics, the educational system having collapsed and all of that, are still staring us in the face today. And I'll tell you, during the Oputa panel, that is the Truth and Reconciliation stuff, the panel came with a lorry load of documents with regards to what can happen to Nigeria, or what the way forward for Nigeria. I can tell you that if you walk across to probably the Secretary to Government's office today, you probably he may find it difficult to find where that problem is. The problem is implementation. Implementation. But why I'm excited, I'm now carried along now by this conference, is that the people who are participating in this conference will urge Nigerians to insist that the product or the result of the conference must be implemented.
Where will they get that power from?
You see, that's one of the problems that we're having with this conference. A number of people have argued, some lawyers have argued, that it is being constituted through the inherent powers of the president. But my opinion is that it must have a legal backing. It must have a legal backing such that it can be incorporated into the Constitution. Because if it doesn't have a legal backing, it becomes a normal jaw affair. So people just go there, talk, they collect their allowances and go back and begin to imagine that those things will be implemented. So it must have some legal. It is time the National Assembly, or even if it's an executive bill, is made so that by the time this conference is concluded, it becomes part of our Constitution. I do not agree with those people who are talking about referendum. Knowing this country, see, I'm a realist. Who is going to conduct the referendum? It probably will end up being the kind of referendum that you had with the National Assembly last year, where they said, the Nigerians said they don't want local government autonomy, and the local government, the Nigerians were shocked that they could say a thing like that. But that was the result of their referendum. So
was that a referendum?
that was a referendum that they said they conducted. So the APC had just conducted a referendum last week that they had leaders, in public opinion. So who is going to conduct this referendum? So it's going to be tempted. But I think 400 and something people is enough people to speak for Nigeria. We don't need to go back to the villages and all kinds of places to distribute questionnaires that are subject to manipulation. The moment they are able to agree on 75%, which is a high mark, as a matter of fact, if they are able to achieve 75% agreement on anything, Nigerians have agreed. So it becomes part of the Constitution. So, and that is one area that we must work on to make sure that it has a legal backing such that it can be incorporated into the Constitution.
Who's going to give a legal backing? The National Assembly?
Yeah, so that's what we're saying, that even if it is an executive bill, the president must do that. He cannot continue to rely on his inherent powers. The inherent powers do not allow him to begin to change the Constitution, which is what to uphold. there must be a legal backing that will have a Senate that will incorporate this, the result of the National Assembly, I mean, of the Constitutional Conference into our Constitution, so that we can now begin to address, we would have addressed those parts of the Constitution which we feel are an impediment to equity, justice, and fair play. So one of which may well be a situation where you notice that since this democracy, it's been difficult to create a single local government. The military, that is one area I agree with those who appear to be uncomfortable with the current constitution. By the time the military finished creating the local governments, they almost like locked it up and threw the key into the ocean. You can't create a local government, except you have to get the concurrence of two-thirds majority of all this. And the moment you talk about getting that asset from all the states, they'll start presenting their own local government, and it becomes a jumble. The same thing with states.
Now,
and that is why when the Southeast is talking about being only 5 states, they have been trying to see if they can get a single state to equalize the other people that are, the other zones that are 6 and 7. It's been difficult because the military locked it up. It's difficult. By the time you ask for one single state for the Southeast, you will now find 60. Last year, it was about 68 states demands that people made. So you don't know which one to create. So those are areas that you have to unlock in the Constitution.